there is like some goofy stuff that they do with them. Like, we do hear them seemingly try to communicate, and again, it's an alien language, but like the sounds that come out of their mouths is ridiculous. So they go, they just start doing that, and they just start like, what are you doing? You talking mumbo jumbo knick-knack? I don't know what you're saying. And then they start doing like these hand motions. They're like, it's like, what? Are you cursing me? Hello, and thank you for checking out the video. I just want to let you know that I not only create content on my YouTube channel, Class in the Glass, but I'm also on Twitch, where I review movies, cartoons, and TV shows live, while also playing single-player games and multiplayer games. I also have a Patreon where subscribers have access to hundreds of video and audio commentaries for films and cartoons, as well as podcasts and videocasts. In the meantime, thank you again for watching. Enjoy the video. Let's get to the first part of my show, and that is my review for the latest horror film, chat, on Hulu, No One Will Save You, which I only found out about this movie, a few weeks ago from you guys. You guys were actually encouraging me to check out the trailer for this new little creature feature that's coming out on Hulu. I was like, oh, creature feature? You guys know I'm a big creature feature fan. Checked out that trailer and was very impressed. I was like, oh, okay, got Caitlin Dever in there, and she's been popping up in a whole bunch of films over the last few years, been having a lot of success. I was digging the setting. I was digging the tone. I was like, okay, maybe we have like another Prey situation in our hands, which was also a film released on Hulu and went on to, great critical and commercial success. A lot of people's, one of their favorite movies of last year. Certainly one of my favorite movies of last year. Not my top 10, but definitely, Jeff. I made like a top 15, top 20 list, easily on there. And most certainly was one of my honorable mentions. And I was thinking like, hey, maybe No One Will Save You will be like one of those films this year, which we've thankfully, Chad, these last couple of years, we've gotten some amazing horror films. And also this year as well, everything from Scream 6 to Talk to Me to, Evil Dead Rise and, a whole bunch of other horror films in between. We horror fans have been eating pretty good, Chad. But what about No One Will Save You? Will that join the list? Well, before getting into the nitty-gritty details of this movie, I do want to provide you with the background, the synopsis of the film. A young woman, ostracized by her small-town community for a mysterious reason, comes across an extraterrestrial threat that forces her to defend herself and her home from a variety of alien invaders. For some of you that don't know, I'm a big fan of the creature feature subgenre. Movies like Alien, John Carpenter's The Thing, and Jurassic Park are some of my favorite films of all time. They're fun stories of survival in which our lead characters battle and die against horrific monsters or a variety of mutated creatures or even killer animals. And it's mostly the case for No One Will Save You, where our lead character, played by Caitlin Dever, does just that, against some very overly curious extraterrestrials. And we certainly see that handled, I think, fairly well, over the film's first two thirds. Now, this is a movie with almost no dialogue whatsoever. And that might bother some viewers. But since this is a film where we primarily focus on one person in a relatively isolated environment, I wasn't really bothered by that. I think going in, like the marketing did not make that clear. This is pretty much a dialogue-free film. There is one spoken line in the movie, and it comes later on. But for the most part, there's no dialogue. You're just relying on the actors and the creatures' actions in the film. And, that might not be everyone's cup of tea. That might be a little weird for some people that do enjoy dialogue in the movie or do enjoy characters conversing with one another. That's not really here. But again, that didn't really bother me like at all. And listen, like in any good, survival film, I like that we focus on a character's day-to-day life before all the crazy shit hits the fan. We establish their likes and dislikes, their habits and skill set. And again, it's very much the case for, Caitlin Dever here and her adorable little home life. And by the way, her house is so amazing and so cute and so wholesome. And it's like, if I'm looking at this, and maybe just because, the time we live in, chat, but I was looking at her home and was like, how does this 20-something-year-old own this house? Which, looking at this, you're thinking, like, how much? That's $1 million too. That's a $1.2 million home. Her property extends, chat. She owns her own private pond and lake. She's got her own dock and everything. And I was like, how does she have this in today's economy? And there's an explanation as to why. It's like, oh, well, that makes sense. But still, I'm just like, you lucky son of a bitch. I want that house. Her house is great. That house is great because the thing is, I think another thing about this, when you first watch the movie, kind of threw me off too, or when you watch the trailers, it felt like a period piece at first because she wears a lot of her, you look at her house, it feels like it's almost like in this bubble that is like the 1970s or the 1980s. That's what I mean. There's a corded phone in the home. She has a bunch of knickknacks and doodads that she's collected, and all those feel like they're from those respective decades. And wait, what time place does this take place in? What decade is this place in? It's modern day because you see she has a flat screen TV and she has other devices. Some devices she does not have, which there is an explanation as to why she does not have them, or you figure out why she doesn't have them throughout the course of the movie. It's actually that I liked. They were clever about the certain devices that she does not own and use based on certain things that we come to learn later on in the film. But yeah, I actually liked her little house. It made me jealous. I was so jealous of her. I wanted it so bad. It is the idyllic country home away from civilization. You have all the resources that you could possibly need. You have a beautiful view, and I was just like, I want that so bad. I was really, really jealous. But great set. It's a great location. I mean, for any movie, but especially for a horror film, because they take your time. The first 15 or so minutes, 20, even maybe 20 minutes. Let's say 15, between 15 and 20 minutes. You get used to her home. Her home itself is a character in the film, going from room to room, seeing certain areas that she doesn't like to go in, certain areas that she does like to go in. I was like, I like this. It has personality. And so that it stood out to me. That's why I was so goddamn jealous. We also see early on that she's very afraid to go into town and interact with the people within it. Despite our relatively positive introduction to her, everyone seems to resent her or downright despise her. It sets up a nice little mystery about what's actually going on with her. The real meat of the movie, again, is her having to battle these aliens alone within and outside her home. And I think all of that is pretty entertaining. The first few encounters are creepy before escalating to more, fight or flight scenarios, chat. Because after we're introduced to her and her wonderful home, during that day, it's the night. And then, there's it kind of starts at almost as a home invasion movie. There's someone in her house that should not be there. And, she does all the things that typically our lead would often do in these type of home invasion movies. She's first kind of she's first of all petrified because she doesn't want to move. She doesn't want to alert whoever this individual is. But then she figures out this ain't an individual. This ain't a human. This is something else. This is otherworldly. And then she does the things that we often see in these types of movies, how it plays out first. And all those initial sequences, I think, are handled very well. They're very spooky. It reminded me, I think maybe this might have been the filmmaker's intention, it reminded me of some of the Best of Signs, which is a movie I don't particularly care for all that much, but when the alien is doing creepy shit, especially in regards to interacting with those characters in the basement or the cornfield, it was that is when it's at its most effective. And that is also the case here in the initial third of this movie. The alien creatures themselves are a variety of the classic big-eyed gray aliens that we see across pop culture, over the last, really at this point, century or so. They kind of have a variety of tweaks, of course, which I thought was pretty interesting. And there seems to be different types suited for different things. You have, your typical, lanky, thin, big-headed, bulging-eyed gray alien that, walks around and stuff. But then you also have, like, these little ones that have, like, claws, and they're like monkeys. And you have, like, these big, giant ones with these huge legs and these huge, muscular arms that are, like, can jump and scale homes and buildings and things. It's like, oh, that was kind of interesting. Now, as creepy as they can be in the movie, and they can be creepy, there is like some goofy stuff that they do with them. Like, we do hear them seemingly try to communicate, and again, it's an alien language, but like the sounds that come out of their mouths is ridiculous. So they go, they just start doing that. And they just start like, what are you doing? You talking mumbo jumbo knick-knack? I don't know what you're saying. And then they start doing like these hand motions. They're like, it's like, what? Are you cursing me? I feel like I've been cursed with voodoo all of a sudden, chat. But I thought that, again, some of it's again, maybe they're trying to communicate. That's how they communicate in their culture. But I have to admit, when they were like doing all this popping and locking in the movie, like I started laughing. And I think when they do that, it's kind of also out in the open, because initially they kind of hide. It was very smart. And it's like, okay, I'm liking this. I'm digging this, because they are only showing you so much of the creature, at least the initial creature, and the other creatures like at first. But then, like, as we get, later in the movie, they kind of just like, here they are. Like, they show everything about them, and the CGI, like, this is not your, it's not a huge budgeted movie. I forget, it's like between like $15, $20 million, something like that, right? Again, that's not wrong with it. I like low budget horror. Some of the best horror films are low budget horror. But you could see, like, okay, the CGI is not the absolute best, and I thought it was better when they were kind of, partially hiding the creature, showing only so much of it, over time. But eventually there was like, screw it. Show all of it, which some people might like. People are like, I want to see this thing all the time. And especially with all the, kind of crazy things that they do. But I did notice it's like, okay, it's a little off. But I was like, you know what? That's okay, because it's what you do with them. It's what you do with them, how the character battled against them. I think that's totally fun. We also see a lot of elements of body horror in the film, because even though these alien creatures are attacking Caitlin Dever, there's you also have the population of the town, and like something weird starts happening with them that's very disturbing and leads to some surprising sequences that it was like, oh shit, is this happening right now? Like, most of the film's events take place at night, but then, there are moments when it's during the day, and where our main character is, out and about, and there's actually some creepy scenarios that happen with her during the day. I was like, oh, that kind of take you by surprise, and so I like that. However, yeah, some of the CGI is a little iffy with the creatures, and I liked what they were doing initially, partially hiding them, only showing so much. I think that's usually the case. I don't think it's always great when you just show everything, Chad. It's like the shark from Jaws. You don't need to show all the Jaws, Bruce the shark, he was scary when you didn't see him. When you saw him, it's like, that's a giant puppet. That's a giant water puppet, Chad. Now listen, as positive as I've been about this movie, and listen, there's a lot to like, a lot to appreciate about this film, and a lot to admire. I do think the film loses steam in the last third and features an ending that is confusing and downright unsatisfying. The director, Brian Duffield, I think that's how you say his name, has come out and said, because apparently there's been a lot of controversy in regards to the ending, but director Brian Duffield he's come out and said that the ending is apparently in stark contrast to endings for A24 horror films that he doesn't like. Apparently he has like a bit of issues with a lot of A24 movies, especially their horror films, and like how a lot of them end. And he did something that is in stark contrast to those endings, and he meant it to be more Twilight Zone-esque. But for me, it ends up being more confusing than most of those endings, those A24 endings, or any of those Twilight Zone endings. And I think it creates more questions than answers, certainly that, for us as the viewers. A lot of it ties into Caitlin Dever's character's past. and why the town despises her. Although we learn exactly, what it is, what transpires after that revelation, I think is downright nonsensical, especially after what we've seen the films in the film's previous 2/3 in regards to the aliens. Like in order to me to provide more context for my major criticisms, like I'd have to say like, okay, what I mean, but I don't want to say it. Like the reason why the town hates her. I'd have to say specifically that, and how certain characters react to the information and then proceed to do something with her later on. It was just like, and based on what she's been doing to them throughout the entire film, it just doesn't make any sense. It was like, this is just weird and bizarre. I mean, looking like the ending is, I mean, he's right. Aesthetically, it's very Twilight Zone-esque. Very Twilight. It actually feels like that in terms of how it presents itself and what the characters are doing. It feels like a classic Twilight Zone ending, but unlike, I think, those Twilight Zone endings, where I think most of them are pretty satisfying of the iconic episodes that I can think of. It's like, oh, it makes sense and it wraps up and, there's a lesson learned. Like here, I don't really think there is a lesson learned. I don't really know what he was trying to do or say, and based on what he was showing us, and what Kaitlyn Dever's character does to certain things, and I was like, why would they suddenly let that happen? It really, really doesn't make any sense, and I think it's quite frustrating. And I know after, I totally understand what people are saying in regards to them like disliking this film, especially disliking the ending, because I'm not overly fond of it either. Listen, in the end, No One Will Save You, I think, has a great premise. It is fun thrills, and I think it's a good performance by Kaitlyn Dever. But I think it has an ending. It has a last third that kind of leaves you scratching your head, asking, "What the hell was that? What the hell was that? was that what we were leading to the entire time? That was the thing." And yeah, I think that might bother some people. But hey, if you're just like, you just love the first 2/3, you will enjoy a good creature feature, and you just want to see, hey, a young woman battling some aliens and protecting, herself and, her own property, check it out. But go in knowing that you're going to get an ending that I don't think makes a lot of sense and is very confusing, especially based on what we just went through in the original 2/3 of the movie. But that's just my opinion, chat, on No One Will Save You. What about you guys? Have you seen the film? Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Are you kind of more like me, where you like a lot of it, but then that ending kind of sticks in your craw? Let me know. I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I want to take the time to tell you about my Patreon, Class in the Glass, which offers hundreds of film commentaries and video reactions to numerous movies, TV shows, and cartoons. If you're a fan of shows like Batman the Animated Series and Avatar: The Last Airbender, or films like Aliens and Raiders of the Lost Ark, my Patreon is the platform for you. Currently, I'm doing a subathon to reach 75 subs on the platform. If we hit 75 subs, we'll be able to start voting on the next edited YouTube reaction, which will include actual clips and scenes from the movies and shows I comment over. Choose from such films as Fire and Ice, Masters of the Universe, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, or Spawn. Subscribing at any tier level is appreciated, and feel free to give feedback at any time. Thank you again for watching the video, and see you next time.